Thor, the night he spoke to his father's ghost. The storm was silent that night. A paradox, wasn't it? For a god of thunder to stand under a sky so quiet, so devoid of the very thing that defined him. There was no thunder, no brilliant, terrifying flashes of lightning, just rain. A cold, relentless rain falling over the ruins of what was once Asgard. It washed over shattered stones and broken columns, remnants of a golden city now reduced to rubble and ghosts. Thor stood alone amidst the devastation. Mjolnir, his ever-faithful hammer, felt unusually heavy in his grip, its weight a constant physical reminder of his burdens. His eyes, one a piercing blue and the other a testament to loss, were lost in the past, replaying memories of laughter, of feasts, of a home that now existed only in his mind. For the first time in centuries, perhaps in his entire long life, he felt small. He was a king without a kingdom, a god with no home, a son with no father. The weight of it all pressed down on him, heavier than any mountain. He had fought monsters, challenged cosmic beings, and stared into the abyss. Yet this silence, this emptiness, was his most formidable foe. He looked down at his hands, calloused and scarred from 1,000 battles. What good were they now? What good was all his strength if he couldn't protect the one place, the one people he was sworn to defend? The rain plastered his hair to his forehead, mingling with the tears he refused to let fall. He was supposed to be the anchor, the hope for his people. But in that moment, he was just a man drowning in his own grief, lost in a sea of failure. The title of king felt like a mockery, a cruel joke whispered by the wind that swept through the desolate ruins. He had the power of thunder at his command, yet he couldn't even conjure a single spark of hope within his own heart. The silence was deafening, a void where the vibrant life of Asgard used to be. Then, a flicker. A soft, warm, golden light danced at the edge of his vision, cutting through the monotonous grey of the rain-soaked ruins. It was gentle, almost hesitant, like a candle flame defying a gale. Thor's head snapped up, his warrior instincts on high alert. He turned, Mjolnir tightening in his grasp, expecting a threat. Another enemy emerging from the shadows. But it was not an enemy. He froze. There he was. Odin. Not as flesh and blood, not the powerful, imposing All-Father who sat upon the throne of Hlidskjalf. This was something else. A memory given form. A spirit carried on the wind. He was calm, radiant, his single eye filled not with judgment or anger, but with a profound, knowing peace. The golden light emanated from him, pushing back the oppressive gloom. He wore the familiar robes of the king, but he seemed lighter, unburdened by the crown he had carried for so long. He just stood there, watching his son, a silent sentinel in the heart of the storm. Thor's breath hitched. The carefully constructed walls around his heart crumbled in an instant. The god who had faced down armies found himself unable to speak, his throat tight with a pain so raw it was physical. The word escaped him as a choked whisper, cracked and broken. Father. He took a stumbling step forward, his voice gaining a sliver of strength, fueled by anguish. I failed them, Father. I failed you asterisk. I couldn't protect Asgard. I couldn't save. His voice broke again, the names of the lost catching in his throat. His mother, his friends, his people. He couldn't even finish the sentence. The failure was a brand on his soul. Odin simply raised a hand, a gesture that was both a command for silence and a comforting reassurance. His voice, when it came, was not the booming command of a king, but the gentle, ethereal echo of a memory. It wasn't carried on the air, but seemed to resonate directly in Thor's mind. My son, you think a kingdom dies when its walls fall? Thor blinked, the rain on his face finally doing its job, hiding the tears that now streamed freely. He shook his head, confused. The question cut through his grief, forcing him to think beyond the immediate physical loss. He looked around at the ruins, at the undeniable evidence of destruction. The wall's asterisk had asterisk fallen. The city asterisk was asterisk gone. Then, what is a kingdom? He asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. The question of a lost child, not a mighty king. Odin's spectral form seemed to soften, his gaze filled with an ancient paternal wisdom. A faint, sad smile touched his lips. A kingdom is not a place. It is not stone and gold. It is not where you rule. He glided closer, the golden light surrounding him growing warmer, more comforting. He reached out a translucent hand, not to Thor's shoulder, but to his chest, placing his palm directly over Thor's heart. Though Thor felt no physical touch, a profound warmth spread through him, a feeling of pure, unconditional love that he hadn't felt since he was a boy. "It is what you protect," Odin's voice continued, soft but resolute. "Your love for your people, your courage in their defense, your hope for their future. That is Asgard. And even now, you carry it." Here, the warmth in Thor's chest pulsed with each word. A kingdom wasn't a place. It was a people. A promise. He had carried them away. He had saved who he could. They were alive. They were Asgard. The realization dawned on him not as a thought, but as a feeling. A deep, resonant truth that settled the chaos in his soul. He had been so focused on the physical loss of their home, that he had forgotten the spirit of it lived on within him, and within every survivor he had sworn to lead. The storm in the sky, as if sensing the storm in his heart, finally began to stir. A low, distant growl of thunder rumbled across the horizon. It wasn't the angry, violent thunder of battle, but a deep, melancholic sound, like a sigh from the heavens themselves. The truth of his father's words settled, but the pain remained, a dull, persistent ache. Then why does it still hurt so much? Thor whispered, the question raw with vulnerability. He looked at his father's shimmering image, seeking an answer. A cure for the grief that still threatened to consume him. Odin's faint smile returned, this time tinged with a knowing sadness, the smile of one who has loved and lost more than any mortal could comprehend. "Because love always does, my son," he said, his voice a gentle balm. "The pain is the echo of its depth. The hurt is the measure of its power. That's how you know it was real. That's how you know it was worth fighting for." As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the grey clouds with strokes of pink and orange, Odin's golden light began to fade. He was receding, melting back into the morning mist, his purpose fulfilled. He gave Thor one last, long look, a look that conveyed pride, love, and an unshakable faith in the man his son had become. And then, he was gone. Silence returned, but it was different now. It was not an empty, oppressive silence, but a peaceful one, filled with the promise of a new day. All that remained of Odin's visit was the gentle sound of the rain, and the distant, rolling thunder. Thor stood tall. The crushing weight on his shoulders had eased, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. The pain was still there, a sharp edge in his heart, but now it wasn't an anchor dragging him down. It was a whetstone, sharpening his resolve. He looked at Mjolnir, not as a burden, but as the tool with which he would build a new future. He lifted the hammer high, his arm steady, his gaze fixed on the breaking dawn. His eyes, once clouded with despair, were now bright with fierce determination. He spoke to the heavens, to the memory of his father, and to the fallen who watched from Valhalla. His voice was no longer a whisper, but the clear, strong voice of a king. "Then I'll protect what's left," he declared, "for them, for Asgard." As if in answer, a brilliant bolt of lightning split the sky. It wasn't a flash of anger or sorrow. It was a declaration, a promise. The god of thunder had found his purpose again, not in the ruins of the past, but in the hope of the future. The storm was over. A new day had begun. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more explorations into the lives and legends of our favorite heroes, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one.